All right, I will call to order the meeting of the Board of Reviews for Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022 at 6 p.m., we'll say. We'll begin with the roll.
Alderperson Helmke.
Present.
Alderperson Kimmett. Here. Alderperson Touche.
I'm here.
Mayor Diaz.
Here.
Alderperson Kemp.
Here.
Alderperson Posey.
Here.
And Alderperson Hoax.
Present.
All right, we have a quorum.
Awesome. We'll move on to item 3, which is the approval of the minutes from the June 16th, 2021 and May 9th, 2022 Board of Review meetings. Questions, comments, or motions to approve? Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alder Kemp. Last chance for corrections. Seeing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the June 16th, 2021 and May 9th, 2022 Board of Review meetings, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. The minutes are approved. Next, we'll move on to item 4, which is the confirmation of open book and Board of Review notices. Clerk Licht.
A copy of the notices are in your packet, and they were posted as required.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to item 5, which is select a chairperson for the Board of Review. I can keep doing it unless someone really just wants to do it, and that would be fine too. All right, cool. Next, we will move to item 6, which is to verify who is current on their Board of Review training. Clerk Licht.
Both Alders Helmke and Kimmett have completed the training for 2022.
Excellent. Next, we'll move on to item 7, which is... Okay. Maybe I'll move this. Okay. Which is verification that the city has an ordinance for the confidentiality of income and expense information provided to the assessor under state law, Wisconsin statute 70.47, 7, AF. Clerk Licht.
The city does have an ordinance, and it's included in the packet.
All right. We'll move on to item 8, which is receipt of the assessment roll and the assessor's affidavit by the clerk from the assessor.
I have received both the assessment roll and the assessor's affidavit.
All right. Next, we'll move on to item 9, which is verification of open book changes. Clerk Licht.
I think this one's for me.
Okay. Mr. Peters.
Dean Peters speaking, City Assessor. Yes, for the record, the 2022 assessment roll for the City of Verona has been completed, including all real estate assessments and all business personal property assessments. The assessment roll does include any and all changes made during our open book process.
Thank you. Next, we will move on to item 10, which is review the assessment roll. Clerk Licht.
I have a copy of the assessment roll, and we can pass it around if you're interested in taking a look at that.
Sure. I'll review it later. Next, we'll move on to item 11, which is the consideration of a correction of an error by the assessor pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 70.43 for the property located at 614 Deanna Drive. Mr. Peters?
Yes, thank you. All right, well, Wisconsin law provides that if the assessor discovers a palpable error in the assessment of a property from the previous year, that we should enter the corrected value into the current year's assessment roll, and that could result in either refunded property taxes or additional property taxes collected, depending on whether the property was under or over assessed in the previous year. And in order for that process to be completed, the board has to certify the assessor's correction of error, which is what this agenda item is all about. So what happened was the property owner from 614 Diana Drive contacted the assessor during open book because they thought their property was assessed a little high. When we started going through the property records, it came to light that the second floor square footage was significantly off. The assessment records had 896 square feet for the second floor, and the property owner's plans showed 532 square feet. And it was essentially an entire room that had a cathedral ceiling that had been considered second floor, which it looks like from the outside because the ceiling height is 2-story height. But it really should have been counted only as first floor since there was no actual second floor. And we investigated into it. It looks like the error has been there for many, many years. My computer records go, I think, back to 2013, and the square footage was incorrect all the way back, at least that far. The property owner was hoping to get refunded taxes for multiple years, but the state laws only allow for this type of a correction to be made to the previous year. And so I recalculated last year's assessed value based on the corrected square footage, and the difference was $21,600 of assessed value. And the taxes associated with that dollar amount would have been $423.17. So the board, I guess, needs to decide whether you're going to certify that correction of error. If you choose to certify the correction, then the city would have to cut a check to the property owner for $423.17 and essentially re-levy that money to recoup it.
Thank you for the explanation. I guess I have a couple questions. Like, I know it was before your time, but like, it seems like a somewhat significant error. How could this happen, I guess?
Well, this home was built in 1989, thank you. And I don't think it was until probably sometime in the early to mid 2000s that assessors really used blueprints as a basis for the square footage calculations. Prior to that, assessors would go out in the field and take measuring tape or measuring tools and measure the homes and divide off the attached garage, the first floor, the second floor, the porches, decks, and so on, and have essentially a drawing on graph paper, and square footages were manually calculated. Within the last 20 years or so, most of those manual square footage calculations have been converted to CAD systems where the CAD system will calculate the square footage for you, but a lot of the measurements are still based on those old field data collections. When we did the reassessment work 2 years ago and we physically visited properties, part of the process was that we reviewed those sketches that were on file, and in some cases we consulted the historic files that were here at City Hall. But this is the type of error that we wouldn't have caught without going inside the house, because it looks from the outside like it is a 2-story section of the house. And you wouldn't know unless you were in the house that that was a cathedral ceiling and should have only been 1 story. So hopefully we don't have many more of these types of errors on the books, but with the number of homes in the city, you never know what we'll find.
Thank you. And not going to hold the previous assessor against you because, geez, that was probably not the only mistake that was made. Alder Kemp.
I'm sorry. Do you know what the state statute is? I'd like to actually take a look at it in some of the annotated cases. Do you have that statute that you can get to me?
The statute as far as the palpable error correction, what we're dealing with here, yeah, the state statute is, 7043 is the correction of error that we're dealing with right now.
Yeah,
what constitutes a palpable error is under 74.33. So both of those statutes would apply.
All right. Thank you.
Other questions, comments, or motion? Alder Touche.
Being an owner of a house from 1986, how would you recommend I proceed to check what you guys have for my square footage versus actual?
Well, it's all public record. We've tried to make the information as publicly available as possible. I believe the Associated Appraisal website has the information posted by floor. If not, there's another website called assessordata.org that may have the information. Otherwise, you can always request a copy of your property records, and the information, including the drawing with the measurements and everything, is available on the property records.
So if I'm trying to clarify this process. Can you either after this meeting or give to the city some links to places to go, processes to follow to do this? I think it sounds like there's a lot of options. None of that is, I'm trying to follow along with you right now on my computer, and that would be helpful not only for myself, but I'm really thinking about everyone else as well in the city.
Sure.
So,
Unfortunately, no. Although, Alder Kemp, are you still looking up the?
Yeah, I'm reviewing the statute. Under 12, he may, well, no, never mind.
Yeah, it's something different.
Yeah, yep.
Well, since Alder Kemp's looking, I'm going to use my discretion as chair if you want to come up and say a few things, even though it's technically not on the agenda. We're here for at least 2 hours, so.
Dean, Adam has been Adam, thank you for making it easy. Oh, there you pray. But I can't thank you enough for all of your time, your efforts, your patience. Thank you for all of your assistance. So I built a house back in 1989, and I know at some point in time my square footage was accurate. So some city assessor changed it. What would have helped is on the assessment form, if you had square footage on that form, I would have found this error at least 10 years ago and saved myself a lot of money. My neighbors, after I talked to them, called the assessor, and they had a conversation about how the basement that got remodeled, and they did pull a building permit, had been wrongly identified, and they saved $7,000 off their assessment. Obviously, I know there are errors the other way as well. There's got to be. I know my neighbors have egress windows, and when I was going through with the assessor, he didn't have egress windows. So I know it's both sides. But how we can fix this is if you can get square footage on that assessment form, I would have found this right away. But thank you for your time.
Thank you for your suggestion. For Mr. Sayer or Mr. Peters, is that something we can just add to the form?
Well, easier said than done. I absolutely am all in favor of the transparency of information. The notice of assessment form that we send out to let property owners know what their previous assessment was and their current assessment, that format is dictated by the State Department of Revenue. So in order for us to change the format, we would need to present a new version of the form for approval to the state, and then they may or may not go for it. But I'm assuming we would want to have some language explaining the square footage calculation, that it includes living area and not garages and porches and things like that. And when is the finished basement counted as living area and when is it not? So we would have to add some language, and all that would need to be subject to state approval. So it's something we can look into, but it isn't just simply that easy to just add it.
Yeah, no, I think I would appreciate if it could be looked into, because, like, I think we all know that the previous assessor made an absolute ton of mistakes. He never should have been employed by the city. I guess I'm still frustrated by it even years later. So I think, in the interest of transparency and helping people make corrections, I think we want it to be there, I think.
Work with city staff and we'll continue that.
Awesome. Alder Kimmett.
In the meantime, could we, I think this is what they were sort of getting at with making people aware of the resources to go and double check those assessments, as far as like the 2 websites you gave. Is there a way to like distribute that information to say like you might want to check if your house was built before a certain time? Or
We could. I think it might be a little bit tough just because the assessments have already gone out. But I think that's something staff could look into. Mr. Sayer?
We could repost on the website. I'm actually on there right now. If you go to the Associated Appraisal's website, it lists off your property and the square footage on there. So we could repost that to the homepage on the city website so people can look up their property. So at least it's a quick click away if people can find that. So we'll take care of that tomorrow.
just sounds like the form alteration might take a while.
Yeah, that's true. So then are we certifying the correction of the error, or we're certifying the error, Mr. Peters?
You would be certifying the correction of error, which would allow for the tax refund.
Okay. Any other questions or comments or motions?
Wait, I have a question. Sure. I'm looking at my house and it looks wrong. So, like, how would I, like, how would, now what do we, I mean, what happens?
This is the meeting. You can complain. No, she can actually complain right now.
Yeah, you have to, You have to file, so this would be under, I'm looking at the limitations. It'd be under that statute 7, with stat 74.35. You'd have to file your claim within a year of the taxation, I think. I mean,
I reach out to him, is that?
Why don't we just try to
Well-
determine under the examination of the roll section if I can take a look and together with you
Okay,
and
that'd be great.
just see if I can interpret what the issue is.
Okay.
Other questions, comments, or motions?
I move to approve I don't have the wording in front of me, this motion that was before us?
Certify the correction of the error?
Correct.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Homke. Motion before the body. Questions or comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of certifying the correction of the error by the assessor pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 70.43 for the property located at 614 Deanna Drive, signify by saying aye.
aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. And that motion passes. Thank you, and sorry about that. We will move on to item 12, which is allow taxpayers to examine the assessment roll. Would this be the appropriate time for Alder Helmke? All right.
Mine's actually looking pretty good.
That's the entire base.
So this is it? Now we just sit?
So finished basement is this.
My mic is on.
Can you bring up the,
What is the address?
460 Daisy Court?
So there's the drawing. This is the two-story section. This is your front porch and
Yep.
your attached garage.
Yep.
This is one story. That's just decks and patios in the
Yep.
back there. And then this is a second floor, 2-foot overhang
Yep,
here that you're
that's
seeing. But it doesn't actually delineate the finished basement. Looks like it was just put in as a 1,000-square-foot flat. But let me grab a calculator.
Oh, no? Okay. I think we're back on. So we do have something under 13, which is hear objections, if any, and if proper notice / waivers given. Oops. Okay, and now we have quorum again, so that's good too. Okay, I am going to ask Clerk Lick to introduce the case for hearing.
So we received an objection form from Philip Hoaxed, and it did not meet the 48 notice requirement. So if he would like to request a waiver from that.
I would, please.
Okay.
And do we vote on that now, or do we do it at the end?
I believe we have to vote on it now. Yes, vote on it now.
And my understanding is this is the correction of an error, and that's why the notice wasn't given with the 48 hours.
That is correct.
All right. Any questions or comments? Does there need to be a separate motion? Yeah, okay. I move that we grant the waiver for the 48-hour notice. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alder Kemp. Motion before the body. Questions or comments on the waiver? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of granting the waiver for the 48-hour notice, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. And the waiver is granted. Clerk Licht.
This is the case of Philip and Sarah Hoaxed. The property owner resides at 1303 Ashburn Way, Verona, Wisconsin. The tax key number for this property is 0608-272-63642. The property has been classified for assessment purposes as residential. The land value in the assessment roll for the current year is land $119,700 and improvements $520,200 for a total of $639,900.
Okay, we will move on to the next item. I would ask Clerk Licht to swear in all witnesses. And of course, each individual should state their name and address on the record.
Would all persons intending to provide testimony for this hearing, including the assessor, please raise your hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony which you shall give in the matter now on hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
Would each person who has just been sworn please state your name and address for the record?
Philip Hoaxed, 1303 Ashburn Way, Verona, Wisconsin, 53593.
And Dean Peters, Wisconsin Certified Assessor, address W6237 Newbert Road, Appleton, Wisconsin, 54913.
Excellent. Now I will briefly outline the hearing procedures. The person filing the objection will testify and present evidence first. The assessor may then ask the property owner / objector questions. Board of Review members may also ask any additional questions they have for the property owner / objector. Next, any other witnesses present in support of the property owner / objector will testify. The assessor and the Board of Review members may ask any questions of the witnesses. Next, the assessor will present their case in support of the assessment. The property owner may then ask the assessor questions, and of course, Board of Review members may ask any additional questions they have of the assessor. Next, any other witnesses present in support of the assessor will testify, and the property owner or objector and the Board of Review members may ask questions of the witnesses. The property owner / objector may respond to the assessor's testimony by presenting any other evidence. Board of Review members may ask any additional questions they have for the property owner / objector. The assessor may then present any other evidence in support of the assessment, and the property owner / objector and the Board of Review members may ask any questions. After all evidence has been submitted under oath, the property owner / objector may make a brief summary of their case to the Board of Review. The assessor may follow with a brief summary of his case or her case. After each summary has been presented, the taking of testimony will be closed. The Board of Review will deliberate on the testimony in open session, either immediately following the testimony or at a later date to be announced. So that is how it's going to work. I will move on to the next item, which is a statement to the property owner / objector before taking their testimony. The Board of Review wants you to understand that under state law, the Board of Review is required to uphold the assessor's valuation of your property as being correct, unless you by your testimony can show the assessor's valuation to be incorrect. In other words, the burden of proof is upon you as the taxpayer. Do you understand?
I do.
Excellent. We will begin the hearing. Then to have the objector, for the record, please state your full name and address. Please state what amount, in your opinion, is the fair market value of your property.
Philip Hoaxed, 1303 Ashburn Way, Verona, Wisconsin, 53593. And you said the amount, I believe the corrected amount is $600,900.
Okay, and that's what the form says. Okay, the person filing the objection will testify and present evidence first. Mr. Hoaxed.
So it looks that we have gotten assessed for a finished basement, and we do not have a finished basement. So I think that looks like it was in the plans of the previous owner, but it never got finished. So it's unfinished. There's no drywall, no electrical, it's cement floor. So it's definitely not finished.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the assessor?
No questions.
Any questions from the Board of Review? Seeing none. Mr. Hoax, do you have any other witnesses to present in support?
I do not.
Excellent. The assessor will now present their case in support of the assessment. Mr. Peters.
Thank you. So this just came to light as Mr. Hoaxed was reviewing the assessment roll and the square footages and so on that are available online. And I checked in with him on his property records, and yes, indeed, we have indication of a partial finished basement in the data for his home. Looking back in the assessment history, it looks like there may have been an inspection done by the assessor in November of 2015 in his notes saying that the framing of the lower level was underway. Presumably the assessor added a finished basement possibly a year later, and the house has been assessed with a finished basement. So in order to get this corrected, we have to have a Board of Review hearing. As part of my presentation, I'm not going to present a detailed analysis of sales or the detailed property records. I think we can make this relatively quick. We've got sworn testimony that there is no finished basement. The assessment included finished basement. Essentially, my testimony is going to be that if I had assessed this property without the finished basement, the assessed value would have been $39,000 less. And that's exactly the amount that the objector is asking for.
Thank you. First up, Mr. Hoax, any question for the assessor?
No.
Board of Review members, any questions for the assessor? Okay. Mr. Peters, are there any other witnesses speaking in support?
No.
All right. Mr. Hoax, do you wish to respond to the assessor's testimony by presenting any other evidence?
I do not.
Okay. I'm going to assume, Mr. Peters, that you don't have any other evidence here.
Thank you, no.
Okay. I'm following the process. Okay. And then as noted, after all the evidence has been submitted under oath, the objector, Mr. Hoax, may make a brief summary of their case to the Board of Reviews.
As I stated earlier, the basement we are getting taxed on is not finished.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Peters, a brief summary of the case?
Yes, I've been asked to determine what the assessed value would have been if the basement were to be considered unfinished, and the difference is a value of $39,000.
Okay, thank you. I will now deem the taking of testimony closed. And I will state for the record, I am now closing the testimony in this case. I will now open up deliberation in this case by asking the Board of Review members to state, based upon the sworn testimony presented, whether the assessor's valuation of the property is correct or incorrect. And then, of course, what we're going to do is deliberate and make one of the motions below, which is either that it's correct or incorrect. So questions, comments, or motions? Sorry.
Another one of those, I move to approve the new, what's the word, new assessment? Or what is this thing called again?
I think, okay, so. Okay, since this is, I think, I don't know if it's in everyone's packet, I'll make the motion.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, okay. So I move to make a motion to exercise the Board of Review's judgment and discretion pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 70.47, paren 9, paren A, by the majority and roll call vote, hereby determine that the assessor's valuation is incorrect and hereby set the new assessment at the value specified in the objection. Seconded by Alder Touche. Questions or comments on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, I would ask Clerk Lick to read the roll.
Alderperson Helmke,
Do I say yay? Yeah.
Person Kimmett, Alderperson Touche,
Yes.
Mayor Diaz,
Aye.
Alderperson Kemp,
Aye.
and Alderperson Posey.
Aye.
The motion passes and the value has been reassessed. Excuse me. Seeing no further people objecting, I will put us back into recess until 5 minutes to 8 p.m. Thank you. We are out of recess at 7:56 p.m. We will just wait the last few minutes in session until we hit the 2-hour requirement by state statute. Okay, it is 8 p.m. We've been in session for 2 hours. We've heard the one objection. We will now move on to item 14, which is adjournment. So moved. Motion by Alder Touche. Is there a second? Second by Alder Helmke. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We adjourned at 8 p.m. Thank you.